Welcome to Learning Unit 2-2. Let's look at number 1. So we're going to find the LCD by the division of prime numbers. So we've got 12, 9, 6, and 4. So remember, we're going to be finding the smallest number that divides into all of them before we move on to a larger number. Number 2 is going to be our first prime number, and we got to figure out how many times 2 goes into 12, whether it goes into 9, whether it goes into 6, and also 4. So 2 goes into 12 6 times. 2 does not go into 9, so we just bring the 9 down. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 4 2 times. So again, we're looking for the smallest prime number that will divide into at least 2 of them. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 doesn't go into 9, so we bring the 9 down. 2 does not go into 3, so we bring the 3 down. And 2 goes into 2 one time. So then we look at the remaining numbers. We're trying to find the smallest prime number that goes into at least 2 of them. 2 doesn't go into any of them, so we then go to 3. 3 does go into 3 one time. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 3 one time, and we just bring that 1 down. So to find the LCD, we're simply going to multiply the 2 by the 2, by 3, by 1, by 3, by 1, and 1. And that's going to give us 36. So our LCD is 36. Number 2, we're going to add and reduce to the lowest terms if needed. We're going to add 3 divided by 40 plus 2 divided by fifths, or 3/40ths plus 2/5. So we've got to figure out put them in the same term. So 3 over 40 and 2 over fifths, we've got to change 2 over 5 to something over 40. So we bring over the 3 over 40, and we figure out how many times 5 goes into 40. That goes in 8 times, so we're going to take 8 times 2 is 16. 3 over 40 plus 16 over 40 leaves us with 19 over 40, or 19/40ths. So let's look at B. It's 2 3/4 plus 6 1/20. So we're going to simply take our 2 3/4. We have to make the 3/4 go over 20. So how many times does 4 go into 20? It goes in 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. So we have 2 15/20 plus 6 1/20. 15 plus 1 is 16. 16 over 20. And then the 6 plus 2 is 8. So we have 8 16/20. We have to reduce our 16/20. And we can reduce that by 4. So 4 goes into 16 4 times. 4 goes into 25 times, and we have 8 4/5. For number 3, we subtract and reduce to the lowest terms if needed. We have 6/7 minus 1/4. So we need to get those in common terms. And we'll take 6/7 and 1/4. So we're trying to figure out the lowest common denominator for 7 and 4, which is going to be 28. 7 goes into 28 4 times, so we take the numerator. 6 times 4 is 24. For the 1/4, we have 4 goes into 28 7 times, so we take 7 times 1, which is 7. So 24 minus 7 leaves us with 17/28. Then we're going to look at B, which is 8 1/4 minus 3 9/28. So we take 8 1/4, we have to change that to the common denominator of 28. So 1 over 4, we figure out how many times 4 goes into 28, which is 7. So then we take the numerator times 7, or times 1. So 1 times 7 is 7, and that's over 28. We have our 3 9/8, so we take 8 7/8, subtract the 3 9/28. The problem is our 7 is smaller than our 9, so we have to borrow from our 8, our whole number. Borrowing from our whole number gives us 28 over 28. So we have 28 plus 7, which is going to leave us with 35/25. We take 35, we subtract 9 from it, which leaves us with 26. Then we have our 7 that we subtract our 3 for our whole numbers, and we get 4. So we have 4 and 26 over 28. And we're going to reduce those, so we end up dividing by 2, and we have 4 13/14. Then we have 4 minus 1 3/4 in C. and we've got 4. Because we don't have any fraction, we're going to just take from our 4, and that's going to give us a whole number of 3 and then 4 over 4. So a whole number of 3 with 4 over 4 minus 1 and 3/4. We take our 4/4 minus 3/4 leaves us 1/4. Our whole number of 3 minus a whole number of 1 leaves us with 2. So that's 2 1/4. For number 4, we have total square footage of 660 1/4. We know that hardware is 201 1/8 and that software is 242 1/4. So we're going to add those together and subtract from our total to figure out what the customer service is going to be for square footage. So we have 201 1/8. We have to use a common denominator, so we can change 242 1/4 into 242 2/8 because we figure out how many times 4 goes into 8, which is 2, and multiply that by the numerator, which is 1. So we have 201 1/8 plus 242 2/8 leaves us with 443 3/8. That's how many square footage is already being used. So we have to figure out how much customer service has. We take 660 1/4, which is our total, subtract out what we already know, which is 443 3/8, and we have to use a common denominator, so we have to change the 660 1/4 into eighths. So we figure out how many times 4 goes into 8, which is 2 times. We multiply 2 times the numerator, and that gives us 660 2/8. We subtract 443 3/8. Well, because we've got a 2 minus a 3, we need to borrow from the whole numbers. So we take 660, reduce that to 659. Then we have 2/8 plus 8/8, which gives us 10/8. So 659 10/8 minus 443 3/8. The 10 minus the 3 leaves us with a 7 numerator over 8. The 659 minus the 443 leaves us with 216. So we end up with 216 7/8 for square footage for customer service.